Look at
They may not
JD.
be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals.
YouTube, what's going on, man? It's your boy Rowdy, and I'm back at it again with another vid. Today we're gonna react to The View and this woke pastor that's gonna sit there and say all of this stuff to Trump and basically disrespect him while she gave her sermon at the inauguration. So I have some small problems with what she did because I don't believe that you can serve two masters. The Bible says you can't serve two masters. And what I mean is either you are for the Bible or you're against it. To say that you're making a plea for LGBTQ people and people of that like, to say that they're scared and all of that BS, there needs to be an understanding. The Bible does not say that you aren't able to live your life the way you want to live it. You are given free will. Period. End of story. However, you will be judged on how you live your life. And that's not the only sin. So because of that, you have to understand you can't get up in the pulpit and be advocating for people who are LGBTQ. That is wrong. And that is disgusting. And I hope that somebody comes and checks her for that, because at some point she's going down the wrong path. There are a lot of people who are, there are gay pastors. And I've never heard such a contradiction. How can you be a homosexual pastor? But anyway, that's not what we talking about. We talking about this lady who tried to confront Trump and the family. She did this in front of everybody. Trump, JD Vance, their families. And she did it in front of the world. And she decided to make a plea, stand in the middle, or advocate for people that were LGBTQ and people who are scared, and women and stuff like that. And at some point, the rhetoric has got to have some limits to it. You weren't there to sit there and make a plea with Trump. You were there to bless his campaign or not bless his administration, and basically usher in utilizing a sermon. So the issue I have with this pastor is not only that she said what she said about Trump, but she ended up running to The View and trying to talk to them about what happened. And this is what we're going to react to, because I feel like this is very, very interesting. Not only did she do this in front of the people at the inauguration, but she's going to run to The View. In my opinion, not only is she wrong, but it looks like she was just trying to get some clout behind it and get a little notoriety. So hopefully, whatever she was looking for, she did not get, because she don't deserve it. To sit there and be a pastor and be advocating for LGBTQ is wrong. I don't care how you spin it. It is not a crime, because people have free will and you are able to do whatever you want to do, whatever you decide. But the reality of the situation is, as a pastor, there are limitations on what you can do and what you can say, because you are advocating for the people whom you lead, and you cannot lead them if you aren't right. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into this vid.
There was a national prayer service yesterday in D.C. led by Bishop Marion Edgar Budde, who made this plea to the newly elected president. Watch.
Mr. President, millions have put their trust in you. And as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt the providential hand of a loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals.
Oh, he didn't like that.
Entering the country illegally makes you illegal, and it's unfair to people who did everything the right way. There are people who are immigrants who came here and did things the correct way. Maybe they got a visa and was married to somebody. They were able to obtain citizenship that way. Or maybe they were able to just go through all of the documents and all of the paperwork and take the tests and the schooling and things like that. People here need to understand it's not an issue that you are an immigrant. There's nothing wrong with being an immigrant. It's okay. I'm going to say it one more time for the people in the back. Being an immigrant is great. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. The problem is when you are an illegal immigrant and you have an expectation to obtain the things that people whom are citizens can get. Now, the claim is being made that FEMA had put a lot of money into these immigrants' pockets this past year or so because everything has gotten out of hand and they needed a way to be able to finance and pay for things and stuff like that. They provided, in New York, I believe they provided food and they provided shelter, and it got out of hand. I mean, not only were they being treated like citizens, they were almost being treated like royalty because they didn't have to pay for the stuff they was getting. They were just getting free money, free things because they were immigrants trying to get a better life, trying to get away from where they were at, their horrible situations. But you can see people who really did the work, who did the legwork, who became citizens any way they could do it, people who took the time to look into how to become a legal immigrant, they became legal. So I would love to not have to listen to this nonsense about people crying about immigrants and illegal immigrants, because becoming a legal immigrant is a process that a lot of people fought blood, sweat, and tears for. I don't know who we're kidding. I don't know who's trying to continue to pull the wool over our eyes. But at some point, somebody's got to start telling the truth.
Trump did not get the message, and now he's demanding an apology.
As he
so
should.
Here to respond, please welcome Bishop Marion Edgar Budde. What made you decide to use that opportunity for this message, or didn't you have any apprehension about it?
My responsibility that morning, yesterday morning, was to reflect, to pray with the nation for unity. You know, I wanted to emphasize respecting the honor and dignity of every human being, basic honesty and humility. And then I also realized that that unity requires a certain degree of mercy and compassion and understanding. A lot of people, as I said, in our country right now are really scared. We need to treat everyone with dignity. And we need to be merciful. I was trying to counter the narrative that is so divisive and polarizing, and in which real people are being harmed.
This notion that the patriarchy is controlling women, and it's difficult for women to be able to progress, and it's hard for them to live their lives because they're for some reason under a man's thumb and they can only do things blah 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 if men let them. I mean, that last part was right to a certain extent, but we as a society are delusional and foolish to believe that women aren't pedestalized now, to the point where she felt emboldened to get up there in that pulpit and look Donald Trump straight in his face, the most powerful man in the world, and basically spew rhetoric in his face. And I feel like if the person who prayed for Biden did that, then the whole world would have been a whole issue. But because he wants to advocate, or Kamala wanted to advocate for, transgenders, getting sex changes in jail and stuff like that, I feel like that was okay. They wouldn't have had an issue if she wouldn't have said nothing. Now, again, live your life how you want to live it. So once you hit 18, you can do whatever you want to do. So this notion that people got to be scared, why are we sitting there basically targeting children? Because at 18, even the law advocates you can do what you want to do at 18. There is not one law that stops you from doing except drinking. And I believe in some legalized areas, smoking weed. Those are the only two things that the law wouldn't permit. You can go fight in wars, and there's so many different things. You can get tattoos and stuff like that. That's not even a really illegal thing. That's just morally wrong until you're of age. So I don't like how we view certain things and the hypocrisy of the things that we view them, because it continues to point things into the wrong direction that we need to fix. And it really rubs me the wrong way to be a pastor, to sit up there in that pulpit and act like the only people that are hurting are these illegal immigrants and children that are LGBTQ and gay and lesbian and stuff like that. Is a problem. I mean, she didn't say anything about women. She didn't say anything about, men. Men hurt. People don't understand the hurt that men go through. Men have the highest self-deletion rates. Women don't. They may have the most highest, attempts, but they don't have the higher rates in self-deletion. Why would you want to do that to yourself? Because your life is hard. I feel like the reason why some women don't do it is because they're being dramatic about it. Their life isn't as hard as they make it seem. They're just being dramatic, and I don't care how that sounds, because at the end of the day, there are people who have done it, and it probably was because they felt like they had no way to turn. You can see that we put more of an onus on women and the safety of them versus the safety of men. And as you can see, this is the way that the states are trending now. The United States is trending towards men, because at this point, men have had enough. And this is going to show. She's going to show that she has made a fool of herself coming soon. To get up there and look him in his face, and then to sit there and spew foolishness and hypocrisy. This is a heathen.
Bishop, I was struck by your tone. You said all of this with Trump, J.D. Vance, and their families, including Melania, an immigrant, and Usha Vance, a child of immigrants, sitting there.
Legal. I said earlier, I don't want to reiterate because I've already been long-winded, but these are legal. There's absolutely nothing wrong with people being legal immigrants. Nothing. It's the people who are illegal and the people who are committing crimes as illegals. Why have we gone so far away from common sense?
Right. And their reactions were very visible for all of us to see. You could see their faces. Were you paying attention to how your message was received by them in that moment? And do you think it sunk in even a little bit?
I've been preaching for a long time, and I've long since given up trying to read people's body language as I'm preaching. Because I would be wrong most of the time. So I don't know. I was aware that obviously people were listening, but I couldn't allow myself in that moment to I just had to keep going, right? I had what I felt was on my heart to say, and I had to leave it to them, to all of us, to take from whatever my words were, to heart in whichever way they could, and leave, as they say, leave the rest to God.
Bishop, predictably, you seem to strike a nerve. President Trump initially said yesterday it was, quote, not a good service, unquote. But overnight, he took to social media to say you were a, quote, radical left hardline Trump hater, unquote, that you brought the church into politics and that you owe your church and the public an apology. Now, given your role, it doesn't seem surprising that you would speak out for the marginalized, as anyone who's read the Bible and know the knows the path of Jesus, but do you think your message is being misconstrued and politicized?
I mean, how could it not be politicized, right? We're in a hyper-political climate. One of the things I caution about is the culture of contempt in which we live that immediately rushes to the worst possible interpretations of what people are saying and to put them in categories such as the ones you've just described. That's part of the air we breathe now. And I was trying to speak a truth that I felt needed to be said, but to do it in as respectful and kind a way as I could.
And Bishop, given that we live in such a divided time as you've reflected on, and knowing how this message might be received by Trump supporters, I wonder if your words may have had more impact if they were shared one-on-one with the president, and was there an opportunity to have that conversation?
I've never been invited into a one-on-one conversation with President Trump. And I would welcome that opportunity. I have no idea how that would go. I can assure him and everyone listening that I would be as respectful as I would with any person, and certainly of his office, for which I have a great deal of respect. But the invitation would have to come from him.
The Trump administration has already overturned policies to now allow ICE to go into what have been deemed legally sensitive areas, including churches, schools, hospitals, to apprehend migrants. As a woman of the cloth, how do you feel that the church is no longer viewed that way by some?
It was never encoded in law. Any of the police officers and officials could come into our churches if they felt they had just cause. Now, they would need a warrant. They would need all the legal requirements to enter into such spaces, private spaces, as they would be necessary elsewhere, because churches are public spaces. They could go into them always.
So basically, in a nutshell, I do not agree with her getting up there and saying what she said, but I do appreciate how she said it, and I do appreciate the place she was coming from. You know, she wasn't trying to, I don't believe that she meant to be as much of a, I don't think she meant to be as disrespectful and to be spewing rhetoric. I think she really believes that, you know, there are LGBTQ children that are scared. And although that is wrong, especially via the Bible, which she has to uphold as a pastor, I feel like she came from a good place. But the problem is, it don't matter the place that you come from. If what you're doing is wrong, wrong is wrong. The time of normalizing foolishness is over. The time of accepting nonsense is over. Anyway, I appreciate you guys for watching. I appreciate you guys for all the subscribers. I hope that I can continue to keep you guys. And please like, comment, and subscribe for more content. I'm going to bring you out as much as I can. But anyway, I'm going to holler at y'all on the next one. Peace.